I'm Sam Vaknin, and I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. The study of narcissism is almost a century old, yet the two scholarly debates central to its conception are still undecided and unresolved. The first one, is there such a thing as healthy narcissism, as postulated by Kohut, or are all the manifestations of narcissism in adulthood pathological, as Freud believed early on, followed by Kernberg? Moreover, is pathological narcissism the outcome of verbal, sexual, physical, or psychological abuse, which is the overwhelming view? Or, on the contrary, is narcissism the sad result of spoiling the child and idolizing it, as Millen believes? The second debate is easier to resolve if one agrees to adopt a more comprehensive, all-inclusive definition of abuse. Overweening, smothering, domineering, spoiling, overvaluing, and idolizing the child are all forms of parental abuse. This is because, as Karen Horney, the famous psychoanalyst, pointed out, the child is dehumanized and instrumentalized when the child is idolized. His parents love the child conditionally, not for what he really is, but for what they wish and imagine him to be, the fulfillment of their dreams and frustrated wishes. The child becomes the vessel of his parents' discontented lives, a tool, a magic brush with which they can airbrush and transform their failures into successes, their humiliation into victory, their frustrations rendered unto happiness. The child is taught to ignore reality and to occupy the parental fantastic space. Such an unfortunate child feels omnipotent and omniscient, perfect and brilliant, worthy of adoration and entitled to special treatment. The faculties that are honed and created and generated by constantly brushing against bruising reality, faculties such as empathy, compassion, a realistic assessment of one's abilities and limitations, realistic expectations of oneself and others, personal boundaries, teamwork, social skills, perseverance, and goal orientation, not to mention the ability to postpone gratification and to work hard to achieve it, all these capacities and abilities are lacking or missing altogether in the narcissistic child turned adult. He sees no reason to invest in his skills and education. Such a narcissist is convinced that his inherent genius should suffice. He feels entitled for merely being, rather than for actually doing. But such a mental structure is brittle. It is susceptible to criticism and disagreement. It is vulnerable to the incessant encounter with a harsh and intolerant world. Deep inside, narcissists of both kinds, those created by classic abuse and those wrought and yielded by being idolized, both types of narcissists feel inadequate, phony, fake, inferior, and deserving of punishment. This is where I disagree with Millen. He makes a distinction between several types of narcissists. He wrongly assumes that the classic narcissist is the outcome of overvaluation, idolization, and spoiling, and thus is possessed of a supreme, unchallenged self-confidence and is devoid of self-doubt. According to Millen, the second type of narcissist, the compensatory narcissist, is the one who falls prey to nagging self-doubts, feelings of inferiority, and a masochistic desire for self-punishment. Yet, the distinction is both wrong and unnecessary. There is only one type of narcissist. Admittedly, there are two developmental paths that lead to narcissism. But all narcissists are besieged by deeply ingrained, though at times not conscious, feelings of inadequacy, fears of failure, masochistic desires to be penalized, fluctuating sense of self-worth regulated by narcissistic supply. They both are possessed with an overwhelming sensation of being fake, fraud. The grandiosity gap between a fantastically grandiose and unlimited self-image and an actual, rather limited accomplishments and achievements, this abyss between the ideal and the real is grating. Its recurrence threatens the precariously balanced house of cards that is the narcissistic personality. The narcissist finds, to his chagrin, that people out there are much less admiring, accommodating, and accepting than his parents were. As he grows old, the narcissist often becomes the target of constant derision and mockery. Sorry sight indeed. His claims for superiority appear less plausible and less substantial the more and the longer he makes them. Pathological narcissism, originally, it was a defense mechanism intended to shield the narcissist from an injurious world. But as a narcissist turns adult, narcissism, his pathology, becomes the main source of hurt, the main generator of injuries. It is counterproductive and dangerous. Overwhelmed by negative or absent narcissistic supply, some narcissists are forced to let go of this defense mechanism of narcissism, and they retreat into a land of delusion and fantasy, even into psychosis.
My dear brothers and sisters, at this particular juncture, I want to coin a question. And that question is, what is our relationship with our parents? Right now, I want you to ask yourself, what is our relationship with our parents? Are we diligent children with our parents? Are our parents truly happy with us? Are there days in our parents' lives when they sit and they wish we would be different children to what we are? Ask yourself this question. Especially our mothers, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us about how the mother has a precedence in our lives over the father. And to make us understand this better, I want you to imagine a mother who writes a letter to her child. What do you think this mother would say in her letter? Would she not say, "My dear son, a long time ago, I received the best news a mother can receive, a human being can receive. And that was the news when I was informed that I was pregnant with you. And my dear child, I cannot express how happy I was on that day." And weeks passed by after that. And my body started changing. And I was scared, because I could not eat except that I would vomit what I ate. And I would feel weak. And my body started expanding as you grew in me. And my dear child, I promise you that with all the fear that I had, I was loving you more with every day that passed. Even though all this was happening to me, the day that I held you became even more dearer to me. And my dear child, those weeks became months. And I became even more heavier, to such an extent where I couldn't stand for long. I couldn't walk for long. And then a time came when I couldn't even sleep on my back, because of the weight of carrying you would cause immense pain on my chest. So I would sleep on my side. But I would fear when I would turn to my side that I might roll onto my stomach and harm you. That was a fear in my mind, my dear child. But I would try my best. And every day that passed, my love for you grew stronger. And my desire to hold you grew stronger. Until, my dear child, a day came when I felt a pain that I never ever felt in my life before. A pain in which I thought I would die. Wallahi, I thought I was going to die. A pain which I would not wish that my enemy felt. And it was the day when you were about to enter this world. And it lasted for long. Pain after pain, contraction after contraction, second after second, minute after minute. By Allah, it felt like a lifetime. I thought I wouldn't survive from this. But I promise you, my dear child, that there was never a moment that I hated you during that process. Never a moment where I said an evil word to you or an evil word about you. Rather, my desire for you, my desire to hold you, my desire to see you kept me going. That inshallah it's soon, that inshallah it's soon. And I carried on going. I never ever said that I will take revenge over you after you're born. I never ever said that woe to you, woe to you. I never uttered a word of enmity and hatred towards you as I suffered these pangs that felt like the pangs of death. And then, my dear son, or my dear child, you entered this world. And when I saw you, the pangs of death that I thought I felt dissipated. And the tears that I had in my eyes became tears of joy. And the hurt that I felt in my body became a hurt of joy as I held you and brought you to my chest and smiled and said, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Allah has blessed us with a great blessing. And then, my dear child, it never stopped there. For the sleepless nights came after. Why sleepless nights, my dear child? Because I could not tolerate you crying one bit. I would be so tired from looking after you during the day that when I finally got some sleep and you made one sound, it woke me up immediately because it would hurt me that you would be uncomfortable. So I got up and said, rather I be uncomfortable than you be uncomfortable. Allahu Akbar. This is what she probably would write. And I would pick you up and pat your back and make sure you fed and make sure the milk is at the right temperature so that you would experience utmost comfort. And then you grew up, my dear child. I saw you walking, and before that crawling. And then a day came which was difficult for me. And that was the day when I had to take you to school. And I held your hand, my dear child, and I took you to school. And you cried there. And I cried too. But I had to hold my tears because I knew it was good for you to be there. And I didn't want to make you upset that I was upset as well. So I held my emotions and left you there. And then, my dear child, you grew in that school and you developed independence and you did things for yourself.